Hi, my name is Lesley Lewis, and I just want to thank the Change School and for allowing me to speak on families and relationship at the third summit. Congratulations! This is very, very exciting. I have been working with in the field of third cultured kids for 35 to 40 years. I'm a psychologist, and I have been working in Hong Kong for over 30 years. I am spending more and more time in North America also. And so I split my time between Hong Kong and Vancouver, Seattle, and Tucson, Arizona. I have been working with families, TCK families, and I'm going to hone in and be specific that I am speaking about third cultured kids and adult third cultured kids and relationships. The title being, How Are We with Love? And for many, many years, the words restlessness and rootlessness have been part of being a third cultured kid, and that carries over into the adulthood of being an adult third cultured kid. This is a result of one, of course, many, many moves for some third cultured kids. And if they haven't moved, it's also with their friends moving and families moving and other people that they have known. So again, the word mobility is a huge part of this world. In that, saying hello and goodbye, families moving constantly, change, the word change. And with that comes meeting new people constantly, saying hello and goodbye. What happens with our feelings in regards to those hellos and goodbyes and the moving around? And often what can happen and has happened in my workings with many of the third cultured kids and adult third cultured kids is that there has been a wall that has been put up in regards to having long-term relationships and being involved beyond a certain point. The wall, as I call it, has gone up. The wall, of course, is about the hurt of saying goodbye, losing the trust that maybe people will be in my life, they won't be in my life, they'll only be in my life for a short period of time. And with that comes, of course, as we get older and wanting to move into love, it can create some real issues for the adult third cultured kid. So one is the avoidance of being in love or being able to maintain a long-term relationship. Where does that go? Can I really sustain a long-term? Do I want to? Does the restlessness start to come in? I've got to move on. And so there has been a high percentage within the population of adult third cultured kids that long-term relationships don't last or they don't exist. There is that belief. I have worked with many, many adult third cultured kids and have met many that have had long-lasting relationships. So I don't want you to think that it doesn't exist, because it does. Take it out into the whole world and in the population, there are many couples and many people who cannot have long-term relationships or have intimacy and avoid them. That is something in wanting to work on yourself and when I do work with people, I say, okay, you don't think you can have long-term relationships, but let's look at one, and I stress this, look at the long-term relationships that you do have. Some of you and many of you have had relationships that go back to your childhood, perhaps from when you were 4, 5, or 6, 7, 8, 9, and those are with your friends. There are family members that you've had long-term relationships with other people that have been in your life. So resort back to the people that you have had those relationships with on a long-term basis and figure out, how come? Why are those people in my life still? And yes, I do and I can have these types of relationships. They can be very, very intimate depending on how we are describing intimacy. If you have friends, family members, People that you have had a one-on-one relationship with, um, they've been intimate. They are intimate. So, secondly, please believe that you can have intimacy. Being afraid of intimacy is another topic. Why am I afraid? Usually people are afraid because they don't trust. The bottom line is we learn that we need to trust ourselves in those relationships to make them worthwhile. We need to see that we trust ourselves to be ourselves. Often we are not. And as third cultured kids and adult third cultured kids, one of the things we've learned to do is that we have learned to mask our feelings or to mask the lifestyle that we had, because people will think, oh, we're bragging again. Look at where we've been. Look at where we've traveled. Look at all the places that we've lived in, the people that we've met. And so we tend to hide. We mask in order to fit in. The important thing here is to unmask. Take the mask off. Be able to say who you are. It's how you say it. How do you communicate the life that you have led, the feelings that you have, and what that meant to you to live this lifestyle, and to be able to explain that. Often it comes across that we're bragging and people get turned off and so forth and so on. No, this is a sign of saying, no, this is who I am. Own up to it. Don't be afraid to speak out. And you are then not avoiding yourself, and then you are being true to others and honest to others. So that's number one. How people interpret your lifestyle or the third cultured kid lifestyle that you've led and what you're doing now, that's up to them. You can bring them along. You can tell them the pros and cons of having a lifestyle like this, that it hasn't been all beautiful, that there's been many things that have been difficult and other things that were just wondrous about having and living the way you have. So please make that very clear in your relationships. Once you start to unfold and you become more yourself, then you can start leading into more meaningful and long-lasting relationships. When you move in and you are part of a family or a relationship or with friends, we have a hard time sometimes explaining, or adult third cultured kids have a hard time explaining how we are feeling without trying to say, oh, well, this is not important. Let's just move around and let's go do something, or there's that restlessness again. Try to sit there and explain and how they can support you, how they can understand you more. Because if they are non-third cultured kids or non-adult third cultured kids, they will have a very difficult time in understanding who you are and the life that you have held. So it means, one, to sit down and to address, what are the difficulties perhaps in the relationships, in the wall that's gone up to make your relationships more intimate, filled with more love, more understanding, more communications, and the relationship. What kind of relationship are you wanting? And I think everyone needs to sit back and think about, what are we wanting in the relationships that we have? And many people don't think about that. They just act. They just automatically act the way they are, instead of going, okay, what do I want? Whether you just met somebody, whether you've been with somebody for 3, 5, 10 years, it's an ongoing exercise that people need to reassess and sit back and say, what do I want right now from my relationship, or my friends, or from my family? And to me, I'll always go back to knowing yourself, communicating what you're feeling, trying to make people understand, being a good listener, being a very good listener in your relationships creates a lot of intimacy and then leads into love. If you are a caring person, if you are a loving person, if you are an understanding person, it is then transmitted to the other people that are surrounding you in your life. You may have different expectations in your relationship. You may want to say, let's go, let's move after 3 or 4 years. Come on, what's wrong? And your non-third cultured kid or adult third cultured kid partner may say, I don't want to move. I want to stay put. Where are we going? And you'll say, well, I expect us to move after, a certain amount of time. Let's go see the world. Let's go live in a different place and meet these different cultures. You have to be able to make them understand where those feelings come from, those thought processes, and introduce them to other people that you have known that have led this same lifestyle. They will be able then to reiterate, the life that you have led and the relationships that you have had. Secondly, the values that you hold. They may be very different. They could be very different. Or I would have to think, how do you express your values? Are you expressing your values? Or again, is that avoidance of how I truly feel being masked? So those are some of the things and points that I would really be looking at in how do we love? Be yourself. Be real. Don't be the chameleon. Don't mask yourself. If you need support, and many people do, please, one, talk to people, talk to other third cultured kids and adult third cultured kids and see how they're dealing with the relationship or their own relationships with their children, with their partners, with whomever. Secondly, if it goes into more difficult areas, then please get support, get some counseling support. Like I've said, I have worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of adult third cultured kids on different issues, not always about intimacy, but about many other areas, but one certainly about avoiding your feelings and avoiding who you are. Thirdly, what I would like to see more of on a global perspective is that I think group work is really, really good. If you can find a group of adult third cultured kids that have similar backgrounds and form some groups that you can meet once a week and be able to talk about what you're feeling. How do you deal with love? How do you deal with your avoidance issues? How are you dealing or not dealing? Probably more importantly, if you feel that these are real issues in your life. So I'm really in favor of people being able to hear that, one, you're not alone, which I think is essential because we often feel that we're so alone when we walk through different and difficult times. That if you can have support groups come together, you pick 8 to 10 people that can form a group for 8 weeks, 10 weeks, you're committed to it. You find someone, if you need someone to be the leader or the co-leader, like i.e. myself, a counselor or someone that has experience, please get that to be able to talk about and hear what others are going through and how they're solving their issues and topics in their lives. So I really think that that is another way to solve the problems. I think, though, that whomever you're talking about and whomever you're trying to love, don't be afraid. Communication, talk often about the topics, talk why and where these feelings are coming from so that you can be heard and hopefully through that communication style, you'll be able to compromise, which is a key word, is compromising and understanding that not to trust yourself, to be able to trust yourself to compromise, that you can love, that you can have wonderful long-term relationships. You already do when you look back and see how many you have had and continue to have. So if you have any questions, please contact me. I'll be more than happy to talk to you about this topic of families and relationships. I think there's many more different areas that we could be discussing, and I think this is one that is very pertinent because everybody wants to be in loving relationships.